So today I'm with Vikram Goyal, the founder of Via Home. He has beaten, shaped and played with brass to make the most unconventional, glamorous and statement pieces of furniture. He also has an economics degree from Princeton. But what caught my eye was that he has contemporized traditional Indian craftsmanship. And that is something I want to start our interview with today, because you have taken a traditional craft and modernized it and made it fashionable for people to keep pieces from Via Home and Vikram Goyal Studio in their home. How have you managed to do that? What has been the thought process of doing that?
Well, from a very early age, I've been interested in India's visual arts, and so there is a very strong, and yet my aesthetic is contemporary.
Yeah.
So a lot of my work it kind of got one foot in legacy, if you know what I mean. Even the choice of material, brass,
Right.
is a traditional material. We used it for decoration, for ritual objects.
Yeah.
And so it's not, so there's a choice of material, which is legacy. A lot of my references are from the Indian visual arts, but the designs are contemporary.
Right.
Because my interest is in contemporary design. I like the fact that we're in a country like India where there's such a deep and rich cultural heritage of craft and of tradition, and how we can modernize it. I think maybe this is because I spent many years living in the United States, 2 years in Hong Kong, and so able to come back to India and see it with this fresh lens.
Yeah.
Distill what is in India there's a lot of tendency to over design or over decorate, or it's just more adornment.
Correct.
And that's just our DNA, and it was interesting for me to strip out those extra adornment things and use it towards my aesthetic,
Which is
more contemporary. Yes.
So, I think you've been doing this for 20 years. You've become an icon in doing this. If you had to tell another brand or interior designer, an architect, of how they can help in ensuring our traditional craft does not go extinct, how do we use that in homes today?
So it's we've been doing this for 20 years, and at that time there weren't many other people who were working with craft. But over the last 2 decades, we've seen a lot of interesting designers coming up with working with all kinds of crafts. So on the supply side, you finding people with more product offering, and on the demand side, what you're seeing is increasingly many designers wanting to use craft in their projects, and modern craft. So they want to use the craft, but in a contemporary way.
Correct.
So there's a bit of supply and there's some demand. So it's moving nice. It's moving in a very nice trajectory. I think also people wanted. There was this phase where a lot of homes, especially at the higher end, there was this kind of notion of contemporary being kind of very boxy, if you know what I mean, very simple, plain lines. I mean, that minimalistic.
Yeah.
Which didn't quite go sometimes with the client, because they were not minimalistic.
Right.
And also minimalistic in a kind of very boxy way, clean line, which is not contemporary. And so you found that a lot of homes ended up looking very much like each other, like airport lounges,
You've used that analogy before. You've compared homes to airport lounges. So how do you balance the modern with the heritage and tradition?
Because then you accessorize, and that's where you mix in things.
Yeah.
And then you bring in eclectic things, and and India's full of this. It's got a vast array from painting to sculpture, glass, and different kind of materials. And so there are a lot of things to mix it. And somehow that aesthetic is only just started to take shape, and you find more and more designers who are experimenting with, going along in the contemporary language, but kind of rooted in some kind of legacy or history or travel or craft, and not just plain boxes with one box within a box.
I agree, and I think that's something that we need to celebrate and make trendy and make cool, where we're not constantly looking at Europe and what the outside world is doing, but actually dig deep into our culture and see how we can celebrate it in a modern way.
And actually, some of the European designers are the world's best. I mean, I really think that some of the best, most interesting, eclectic interiors come from France and the UK and Italy, Spain. So I don't know how this kind of very saturated, distilled version of minimalism and contemporary arrived in India. I'm just not.
And now even the opposite is happening, right? A lot of the other countries want Indian design and Indian heritage in their home.
Because of the increasing supply of fine quality contemporary design pieces, but working with Indian craft. And for example, this most in terms of metal, most metal studios around the world, they work with cast metal. They cast the material.
Yeah.
We work with sheets of metal which come in rolls, and then we work on the sheets. And artisans have a history of working with this in surface decoration.
So this would be that.
So this would be that. This would be the sheet metal. It is cast.
Correct.
And this sheet metal is something which you don't find much in the rest of the world, and so therefore there's a demand for something which is a fresh material. There's a demand for example, very fine embroidery. You saw with what the Chanakya School of Craft did with Dior. And it's because we have this heritage.
And I think now you're taking it into two verticals. You're taking it into Via Home and one with your name,
so
Vikram Goyal Studio.
Separated the more kind of what they call collectible design world of bespoke and limited edition pieces under our studio, which is Vikram Goyal. And we are launching or relaunching Via Home as a more accessible home decor with hard goods and soft furnishings. And within that, there is the Via Home, the India edit, which is more of the India modern things which we've been doing.
The classic pieces that everyone knows you for.
The classic pieces. We felt there was a market for that, but we didn't keep it as part of Via Home because we wanted Via Home to kind of have a strong link to India's craft heritage and storytelling, but the design aesthetic not be Indian.
Correct. I saw some of the pieces you were showing me, very contemporary. So like you said, we can mix old traditional craft in a modern way.
Yeah, exactly.
So
because you want to try and take the craft story to an international audience, and they are more attracted to, well, as I said earlier, something which is less decorative and less literal. And less representational. So if you want to make an elephant, don't make a literal elephant, but make something which
a version of
it or inspired by.
Inspired by. That word inspired by, I think, is
because inspiration allows creativity. If you're taking something literal, then there's not that much you can create. But if you're getting inspired, then you can get inspired in very different ways.
Correct.
And that's the exciting part of what you do.
I agree. And you were recently at PAD London, which was your first debut solo show at an international design fair. What did you take? Did you take Via Home? Did you take Vikram Goyal Studio, a combination?
We took only Vikram Goyal, and we're not going to confuse the two different brands.
Okay.
And we took very craft intensive products. So for example, there was this large console called Thar, which is 10 foot long, which took six artisans 3 months to make.
Oh wow!
Yeah, taking sheets of metal and then hammering them, then cutting them, and then welding them and stitching them.
How heavy is it?
About 230 kilos.
Oh my God! How did you move it?
Luckily, I didn't have to hold.
How do you take it from here to there? And that's just one of the pieces you took.
But that's the least of it. The logistics is the least of it.
Making it is more of a laborious process.
More challenging, should we say?
Oh wow, okay. And I now want to know, what is the future? I think you've done 20 years of this. If I had to see the next 20 years, what would be the vision?
So the vision is, the excitement is, it's like giving birth to a new baby, is Via Home now, where we'll be working across with different crafts.
Okay.
So there's metal, and then there's cane, and then there, we are kind of going by what good craft center we find.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work, to be kind of get the craft skills in line with our aesthetic. So, for example, even this, what we've been doing in the studio, the Vikram Goyal studio, is a lot of work with repousse, which is a kind of a signature of our studio, and it's basically creating this three-dimensional relief work on sheet metal, and the artisans were used to working with traditional tree of life kind of decorative kind of thing.
Yes.
To experiment with all kinds of abstract patterns and chinoiserie, Japanese inspired themes. So it took a lot of sampling to get them and training to get them onto our same visual aesthetic.
So how long does that take? What is the creative process?
That full process of getting them on board takes a couple of years.
Years?
It takes a couple of years to train and get people onto that same level of quality, and to change their, the whole process of building teams.
Right.
Take that long. Yeah.
Oh, so it's
very intensive.
Very intensive.
And I mean, they have the basic skills. They've been doing it. Some of them may have doing it they've inherited these skills.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of training, and oftentimes their children don't want to do it.
Correct.
Because they've got their fathers are doing it, they're looked after, and they're not interested in doing this. So now we have to go to technical schools and find people there.
So finding these craftsmen is a task as well.
Itself and training them,
That's the fear that it might go extinct. So you have to find them, make sure they get the income and the respect.
That's right.
And this can continue. And
that's also the excitement of taking something which you feel which is a wonderful skill, and no other country has it, and the history of it, and how do you give it modern day context. And how do you create something which is sustainable? So there is something very exciting about that.
So what is the most challenging project you've taken? Because I feel all of this, what you do, sounds quite challenging. So what is the most challenging project?
Challenges arise when things don't go well. So if something hasn't been created based on your vision, or has not been transported well. So that's the challenging part comes.
The creation is not...
The ideating and creating is the fun part.
Right.
It's the executing which sometimes can be challenging.
And the most fun project you've worked on?
The most fun project I'm working on now is Via Home, because I'm working with, it's one thing to be, and we've been doing this for 23 years, is making these very large products. And now to do kind of tabletop versions and across materials is a lot of fun.
Easy to pick up pieces.
It's very difficult to suddenly get your mind, which has been working on big things, to suddenly start thinking smaller scale. And how do you create impact with smaller scale?
Right.
We've always liked to create products which have impact, which we hope have impact, and to try and do the same with something like a small is more of a challenge, but it's great fun.
Your pieces are outstanding. I think I loved them 15 years ago, and I still love them. They're classic pieces.
So we try and avoid being trendy.
Yeah.
We want to create products which last over time, which hold value over time. So we try and stay away things from this is in the moment, this is trendy. So
more classic pieces.
More classic. So in some sense, even we like to think of them as also being collectible.
Yeah.
And classic in a modern way or contemporary way. So that for me, it's always that kind of challenge of how do you balance legacy with something very modern. And that for me, that push and pull is always what I hope produces a great product.
And I hope that's what a lot of other brands do in India, so that we can keep the Indian heritage and make that trendy.
Yes,
and it's not easy. The way you have balanced it is admirable.
But it's thank you. But it's also I mean, I would say it's the best way is to kind of travel and see what other people are doing, and see what the rest of the world is doing in design, for example.
Right.
Different crafts.
Yeah.
How they've given life to those different crafts, whether it's in South America or the UK or Italy. What they've done with their craft is phenomenal, and both in fashion and home decor. So, and India, there couldn't be a more blessed place than India in terms of this very vast spectrum of products
Right.
in every way. I mean, of materials,
Yeah.
of crafts. So we're very blessed to have this opportunity to be living around so much excellence. And how do you take that and bring it in a modern way to the and make it relevant in today's world?
And like you said, I think India has the creativity, the craftsmanship, the entrepreneurial spirit to really take this forward. Yeah, we have it all, and it's booming now.
And it's booming now, and a lot of people are very proud of saying this is made in India. So that shift has occurred in the last 10 years, and this has happened because also clients are more, they're traveling more, they're being exposed more, and there's a pride in our cultural heritage, and it also helps when you have something like the Decor fashion show and giving such a spotlight on an Indian craft.
Yeah.
And so I think, as with many things, when you have global recognition for something, then you know that this is Indian, and yet it holds its own internationally and on a wider plate. So the number of things which are helping this whole focus on.
So we're moving in the right direction. You set the trend 20 years ago, but now we're moving in the right direction. Yes. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. One word that best describes your design philosophy. One word.
Transient.
Oh, nice. A city that always inspires you.
London.
Yeah. Traditional Indian motif or modern art?
Modern art.
A design trend you believe is overrated. Kind of discussed this.
Fendi sofas.
Yeah. My mom has a Fendi sofa. I'm going to make her watch this interview. Morning design sessions or late night brainstorming?
Morning design sessions.
A historical era you'd love to live in for its design aesthetics?
In India, it would have to be under the Mughals.
Yeah, okay. The most indispensable tool in your design studio?
I'm tempted to say my fly swat. That's an inside joke.
Yeah. Come on, rapid.
My iPad.
Your iPad? I thought it would be like a physical tool of what you do, something with brass.
No.
No, the iPad.
My iPad.
And if you had to describe Vikram Goyal in one word, what would it be? Putting you on the spot here.
Transient.
Yeah? Nice word. Well,
Means in transition, change.
and you adapt. You're constantly adapting, and
Constantly learning.
constantly learning and
Constantly
adapting.
learning.
Yeah.
That's what's exciting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for having me in your beautiful home.
Thank you so
His
much.
home is very beautiful. We're only shooting this part of it, but if you ever get an invite, you have to come. It's gorgeous. But thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.